The sharper our instruments get, the further the origin of the universe slips out of view. We measure the cosmos with incredible precision, yet the foundational ground of those measurements continuously recedes just out of frame. We see this in cosmology. Recent observations from the James Webb Space Telescope reveal massive galactic structures existing at depths where, according to our standard timeline, they shouldn't have organized yet. To accommodate this, we extend the model, adding new parameters and nested layers to explain the discrepancy. The same pattern repeats across disciplines. Neurobiologists search for awareness in neurons, then in microtubules, then quantum fluctuations within those microtubules. Physics seeks an ultimate particle, finding only fields and probabilities, and missing initial conditions. Each answer displaces the question into a deeper sublayer. There is a shared structural flaw driving this unending search. In every scientific field, we attempt to find an absolute ground by indefinitely extending our models outward into the system we are studying. We are searching for an origin inside the projection. A map of the universe that excludes the one reading it lacks the necessary capacity to terminate. It leads, by design, into infinite regress. This infinite regress stems from a framing decision made in the 17th century. We partitioned reality into two distinct domains, a private internal consciousness and an external measurable world. The very grammar of words like objective, subjective, and observer enforces the split. These categories lock science into a loop of trying to transfer knowledge across a boundary the framing itself introduced. Resolving this requires a shift in how we define the field. Awareness functions as the formative ground, the necessary precondition within which any measurement or discovery is available to appear. From this ground, we can define the specific orientation taken toward the field. This is the address, the operator that makes a distinction active. When an address is held, a stabilized result co-arises. This is the occurrence, the physical data that occupies the containing framework. Overcoming the paradoxes of modern physics begins by adopting this indivisible three-part operational grammar: awareness, address, and occurrence. Before dimensions or time exist, there is a non-dimensional ground state devoid of partitions. We call this availability, represented as the undifferentiated field hue. Persistence requires the field to act upon itself. The moment this undifferentiated field turns back upon itself in an act of self-reference is the primordial torsion, or Q star. Our three-part grammar maps directly onto this action. Initiation is the awareness, the operational twist is the address, and the stabilized result is the occurrence. These three aspects co-arise as a single articulation, representing a field differentiating itself while remaining unified. Without this self-reference, there is no loop to hold energy. Q star represents the minimum configuration required for a system to refer to itself and persist. For the primordial torsion to survive, it applies its formative process to itself. Multiplying the grammar generates 9 phase rolls, the lattice of reality. Energy flows naturally through these rolls, moving from a centrifugal spark to a stabilized centripetal surge. This is captured by the recursion equation, where Q star equals the selective return of Q star. This equation defines the field persisting through its own relation. When one 9-cell cycle closes, that completed loop immediately becomes the stable foundation for the next recursive cycle. Coherence is a survival condition. Configurations that close their loop remain stable, while states that fail to achieve a complete phase self-cancel and dissipate. To translate abstract fields into physical structure, we use the coherence metric, T. The numerator is the formative drive, the denominator is the containing constraint. When this ratio equals exactly 1, the forces are perfectly impedance matched, crystallizing into stable matter. This dictates the scaling law. Coherence does not accumulate like building blocks, it propagates outward through nested layers of containment. Closure at one scale provides the foundation for the next. A stable atomic structure serves as the containing substrate, allowing a molecular bond to form. Mass manifests as the invariant energy of a specific scale achieving resonant closure. It is a signature of field stability rather than an intrinsic solid object. When the recursive logic of the substrate is forced into the spatial constraints of a three-dimensional environment, it creates the vector scalar slice. At this level, the 9 phase cells of the lattice map exactly onto the foundational equations of electromagnetism. These fluid electromagnetic operators exist alongside their conjugate projections, rigid geometric polyhedral forms, like the tetrahedron and the cuboctahedron. Measurable space and directional flow co-arise simultaneously as phase-locked expressions of the same recursive closure. Geometry serves as the visible signature of the electromagnetic field successfully closing. It is a trace of the closure, not an independent background that contains it. Standard physics assumes that geometry propagates on its own, carried by a particle called the graviton. In this model, the math shows that geometry lacks an independent kinetic term. Its canonical momentum vanishes. This means that the transverse traceless sector, the part of gravity that would move independently, is mathematically eliminated. Gravity instead falls out as the impedance response of the electromagnetic field. The macroscopic coupling constant, G, is derived from the stiffness of the vacuum substrate when it is compressed by electromagnetic stress energy. This chart from the LIGO presentation shows the observed gravitational strain signals. These waveforms match because detectors are measuring the impedance response of the electromagnetic substrate itself, rather than an independent force. Including the observer to achieve full scientific articulation has been the aim of pioneering structural thinkers. They saw that a complete model must inevitably close its own loop. When science accounts for the address from which it occurs, the search for a ground within the projection ends. The circuit closes. The infinite regress collapses when we realize the wave arrives exactly where it is recognized. The recursion holds.